What is up, everyone? Guys, listen up. In today's video, I want to talk about Path of Exile 2, which is right around the corner. And one of the biggest questions that I get is that, Pip, should I be getting into this game? Is it gonna be super hard to get into it because I haven't played Path of Exile 1 at all, or some people have played just a little bit, never really made it to the end game, and that really does scare them because in Path of Exile 1, there's a lot of very in-depth mechanics. And while those mechanics are present in PoE 2 as well, they are much more simplified and much more new player friendly. One main thing you need to know is that devs have stated over and over again that their mission was to make this game much more friendly for new players.
Support gems are, in PoE 2, you get them by finding an uncut support. And when you open this by default, what you're going to see is just a few recommendations. If you just go through the different skills that you have on the left, there's different recommended skill gems for each skill that you have. So what we're trying to do is just make sure that for new players, it's very easy for them to pick something that's just going to work.
Now let's take a look at the list of changes that is going to come to PoE 2, and this is going to make the game way more accessible if you are a new player. Number one, focus on guiding the players. And what this means is, even though the game is not going to be super easy, the game is going to do a better job at getting you through the game, explaining some things here and there, which means that you're not going to be as confused right away as you are in the first game. The second one is passive skills are easier to follow. And you can see the example of this when they showcase the nodes, where you get to pick which stat you want to invest into that specific node. And in the end, this gives you the ability to follow the skill tree in a way that you prefer.
In order to get between these clusters, you will generally have to allocate nodes in the attribute highways. Attribute nodes allow you to pick which attribute you would like to use, so it's very easy to get points for any attribute that your gear might need. You can change which attribute these nodes give you for half price at the respec vendor.
On top of that, you can reset these skills much easier compared to the first game. You just pay a little bit of gold and you're good to go, which does mean that you don't have to worry about getting invested into something as much compared to the first game. We also have an easier gem system. I have a separate video on this where I explain how the gems work. And honestly, it's pretty simple. If you have any questions, just make sure to check out that video. The color system for the sockets has also been changed. Another thing that is going to simplify builds and so on. WASD movement. This is more of a technical change to the game, but let's be honest, having this option is phenomenal. I'm very happy about this. And from all the people that have actually tried it, they have said that it feels really good. And the game also feels phenomenal on controller. And speaking of movement, the fact that with most skills can be used while moving is a phenomenal thing for the game. It also has couch co-op. When they first talked about this, I was kind of like, is this gonna be really good? Because a lot of the games have tried this, but it never felt good. But then when I watched it, it looked really good. And on top of that, people that got to play it said the same thing. Now, the last one on our list is gonna be classes, but obviously there's more changes. These were the ones that I just wanted to go over here in this video. If you're still thinking about getting into PoE 2, don't let the first game scare you. Just go for it. I guarantee you the whole feel of the game and the experience of the game is going to be different from PoE 1. Don't get me wrong. It's still going to have that complex build crafting and skills and whatnot, but the game's just going to do a better job at guiding you through it so that you don't get overwhelmed. Another thing that you got to take into account is that PoE 2 is a fresh start. And what I mean by that is PoE 1 has been out for such a long time, for over 10 years, which is kind of nuts. And you got to imagine, with all this time, with all these new seasons, ideas, the game just got bigger and crazier when it comes to these systems. And in PoE 2, what they're trying to do is take out all of those unnecessary things that just made the game so much more confusing for new players. And that is going to be one of the biggest differences. Also, the speed of combat, which if you look at some of the gameplay of a PoE 1, especially the end game, the screen, it goes crazy. Half of the time, you're not even going to understand what's happening, which skill is being cast, and so on. However, in PoE 2, that is not the case. I did mention classes, but I do want to cover a few things about them, which is that you're going to have 6 classes at the beginning, and these classes are going to have 2 ascendancies, which means that once you do unlock them, your gameplay completely changes, guys. For example, if you take the witch class, which by the way, I have a full video on the witch where I break down everything, why I think it's one of the most unique classes in the game, and so on. Make sure to check it out. It will help you decide if you want to main the the witch class or not, right? That's why that video is out there. But the point is, for example, if you're playing the witch, you're gonna have some crazy options once you get to the ascendancy. For example, you can become pretty much like a fire mage slash summoner, or you can be a blood mage as well, which is like lifesteal. The classes in PoE 2 do feel like they have much more identity with them, which is something that you will see in games like, for example, Diablo 4 and pretty much other ARPGs or MMOs out there, which makes it much more familiar for new players, because now it's not confusing. It's much more natural to get into the game, which is a great thing. All of those things combined make the game much more approachable if you're getting into the game right now and you don't have any previous experience with the first game. Now let's talk about the skill trees and build crafting, because when people see the crazy skill tree, they also get very scared and it's like, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to understand this. But that is not the case, guys. I promise you. I'm going to give you the basic information right here so that you guys quickly get an idea on what this really is, and you'll see that it's not as bad. So right here, this is your skill tree. Right now, obviously, it's going to be bigger. Essentially, here is where you start. In this case, you see the sorcerer class is picked, and every class starts in this area. But depending on which class you pick, for example, sorcerer, you move up top. For example, with the monk, you'll go to the right, with the other class that way, and so on. You guys get the point. All you need to know, guys, is that there's small nodes, which is these nodes right here, that will give you buffs such as, let's say, just for an example, 5% attack speed or projectile speed or whatever. And then you're making your way to the notables, which is going to be the bigger nodes, and these will affect your gameplay more. Not only are the notables are going to be bigger attack speed or projectile speed or damage buffs compared to the small nodes, but they are also going to affect your gameplay a little bit more. So for example, it might say 30% chance that your grenades explode twice instead of one time. And then as you make your way through the passes, by the way, whichever way you want, you can cross over to the other class skills. That's going to be completely up to you. You will eventually also get to keystones, which you can imagine as even a bigger notable, and it will affect your gameplay in a bigger way. And that's the basic information of the passive tree. And I truly do believe that this game is probably going to be one of the best games, especially in its own genre. And remember, all of this content here is just early access. And speaking of content, let's talk about the end game, because this is one of the most important things you need to understand as a new player. Now, for this game, end game is where it's at. The end game has approximately 8 different activities that you can complete, chase different kinds of items, create cool builds. Yes, 50 unique bosses. All of this just in early access, over 400 different kinds of enemies. So if you're looking for a game to sink your time in and focus on making your character better, creating awesome memories with your friends, yeah, you're not running out of content in PoE 2. So when I say that you shouldn't let a game which has been out for over 10 years, I'm talking about PoE 1, scare you from trying this game, I truly mean it. The fact that they understand exactly what the community wanted and went for the end game and completely invested into it, especially just for early game, is something that every single one of us has been waiting for a very, very long time. From the showcase they did, I'm gonna be honest, I kind of got the vibe that felt like the old school Blizzard, when the games that did come out looked incredible and you could not wait to play those games. That's where I'm at right now. Just hop in. Everything has been simplified. Everything's just gonna feel better. The Ascensions look incredible. Visually, the game is an absolute masterpiece when it comes to ARPGs. Anyway, that is it for this video. Make sure to let me know what you guys think about it in the comment section below. I'm going to be uploading a lot of guides, build videos, all that kind of stuff to the channel, so stay tuned for that. As always, thank you for all the love and support. Stay positive, stay disciplined, and I'll see you all on the next one.
Let's go! Let's go, baby! Let's go!
I mean, we literally have the best community of all time. Oh! Oh, he got no scoped.